Hi there, and welcome to week number 3 to our online Bible study entitled How to Love the Unchurched. Today, we're going to talk about 2 topics. The first has to do with relationships as a key to reaching the unchurched. And the second topic is different models of evangelism. And we'll talk a little bit about the attractional model, the missional model, the incarnational model, and finally, how this is connected to the confessional model of confessing our faith as Lutheran Christians. So let's talk about relationships. Relationships are absolutely essential to building bridges with people. But how do we do that? And I want to suggest to you there is a couple things that we can do to engage others. First is to discover stories. Once you've started the relationship, discover the person's story. Do they have a family? What do they do for a living? Second, ask some good questions. A few years ago, the LWML came up with a course entitled Living the Mission. And here are some of the questions that they asked. Are you asking them about a pilgrimage question, about their spiritual journey? What about who they perceive God to be? Do you consider yourself to be a Christian? It also includes questions about how do you feel about God in the church? And then from another book entitled Just a Walk Across the Room by Bill Hybels, we see these possible questions. Why do you think there's so many religions in the world? Do you think it's possible for anyone to really know if there is a God? What do you think are the most common misconceptions people have about God? Do you believe that God is actively involved in the world? Is there such a thing as destiny? And what do you hope is true about God? And I think these are great questions, and part of building that relationship is that conversation and building opportunities to speak into people's lives. So now I want to take a moment or two to briefly discuss different models of evangelism. So let's talk about these different models. Years ago, there was this idea of the incarnational model. What is that? Basically, the incarnational model is this notion that we move into a community just as Jesus moved into humanity, and we are present. I like that, and I think that has a lot of merit when it comes to a biblical missiological approach. There's a second approach to ministry, and that has to do and is closely related to the incarnational model. It's called the missial or missional model. And what does that mean? This is the notion that we build missional groups right where we're at in our neighborhoods. And we have intentionally building people up and building relationships with them. So instead of saying, come to church, we're going out and quote unquote, as that old saying says, be the church. There's a third approach. What is that approach? I believe it's often referred to as the attractional model. Let's talk about that for a second. It means that it will attract people to church. But how do we do that? One of the ways, of course, that we do that is by being creative in our ministry programming, where we have folks who have a compelling story that might come and share that story, and we have an opportunity to attract others. Another way might be through a sermon series where we are talking about practical day in, day out life situations like parenting and marriage. Or it might be providing a practical seminar helping parents to pay for college, whatever the case may be. And then lastly, it's been said that we are confessional believers, and I believe that wholeheartedly. We confess the confessions that we have held on since the 1500s. But we don't have to, quote unquote, push aside our confessions to reach out to people. In other words, we don't have to sell out to reach out. We can reach out to others, be firmly rooted in our Lutheran identity and the scriptures, And we can build those bridges by understanding, one, that relationships are key, and two, that there are different ways to even share the good news. And in a few sessions, we'll talk about some of the different methods people utilize based on how God has wired them. I want to thank you for taking time to view this video and for looking at our discussion questions, to look up the scripture passages, and to be reading our 2 supplemental books, Joining Jesus on His Mission, How to Be an Everyday Missionary, and Unchurched. I thank you for being a part of this class, and I wish you a blessed week. Goodbye.